Carole Middleton took charge. The doting grandmother reportedly decorated Charlotte's future nursery to perfection.
The crisp autumn air carried a hint of anticipation as Carole Middleton stepped onto the sprawling grounds of Windsor Castle, her heart both light and unknowingly bracing for the events that would unfold that day, moments that would quietly, but irrevocably, shift her relationship with the royal family forever. As Princess Catherine's mother, Carole had always respected the delicate boundaries of royal life. She had observed, occasionally advised, and, when invited, participated in family gatherings, yet she had never involved herself beyond the periphery. She understood the complex hierarchy, the subtle nuances, the unspoken rules, but that morning, she would witness something that stirred a primal, protective instinct she hadn't realized still lingered. A grandmother's fierce desire to shield her beloved granddaughter from even the subtlest harm. The invitation had been unexpected, yet incredibly flattering. Queen Camilla herself had extended a personal invitation to Carole for a private family gathering, a celebration of Princess Charlotte's recent achievements at Lamb Brook School. The event was intended to be intimate. Family members close enough to share genuine pride and affection gathered to honor Charlotte's dedication and intellect. Carole had been overjoyed. She saw it as a signal that the bridge between the Middletons and the royal family was growing stronger, more open, perhaps even warmer than ever. Yet, as she would discover within hours, appearances could be deceptive. Sometimes, the moments of greatest danger or discomfort occur precisely when we believe we are safest, surrounded by those who, on the surface, appear to love and protect us the most. Her arrival was picturesque. Carole entered the castle just after 11 a.m., her eyes drinking in the grandeur she had admired countless times before. The ancient stone walls stood proud against the clear sky, the gardens immaculate and glistening with dew. Yet beneath the beauty, beneath the elegance, Carole felt the faint tension of an unseen undercurrent, like the whisper of wind before a storm. More pressing than the architecture or the gardens, of course, was her anticipation of seeing Charlotte. The little girl had been flourishing academically, her mind sharp and inquisitive, and today was about celebrating her efforts. Catherine and William had arrived earlier with all three children. George, bursting with energy and mischief, darted across the grounds with the confident air of someone who knew every hidden nook and secret hallway of the castle. Louis, quieter and more contemplative, clutched a small toy airplane he had brought for his great-grandmother, his eyes wide with excitement. And Charlotte, sweet, intelligent, and glowing with pride, seemed to radiate her accomplishments like sunlight spilling through the windows. The gathering was informal, at least by royal standards. Camilla had suggested they use the smaller oak room instead of a grand stateroom, cultivating an intimate atmosphere that would allow the children to shine without the weight of ceremonial stiffness. Mid-afternoon tea would include Charlotte's favorite cucumber sandwiches and scones baked fresh in the castle kitchens. Everything seemed perfectly orchestrated. Carole spent the first hour catching up with Catherine and William, listening with delight as they recounted the children's latest achievements and milestones. Charlotte had received top marks for her history project on medieval castles, a subject that seemed almost poetically appropriate given their surroundings. She had also been accepted into the school's advanced reading program, a rare honor that filled Carole with deep pride. Watching her granddaughter's enthusiasm and brilliance reminded Carole so much of Catherine at that age. A mix of curiosity, determination, and joy. But subtle warning signs began to emerge. During the pre-lunch mingling, Charlotte animatedly shared details about her history project, her hands gesturing passionately. Carole noticed a flicker, a slight tightening of Charlotte's jaw, a hesitation in her tone. Something imperceptible to most adults but glaringly obvious to a grandmother who had spent decades reading children's expressions and emotions. Camilla approached the group, her presence seeming warm at first, but Carole caught the minute edge in her tone. "Hello, Charlotte dear," Camilla said, smiling, though the smile did not reach her eyes. "I hope you're not getting too excited. We wouldn't want you to tire yourself out before lunch." The words, though polite, carried a subtle command beneath their surface, a slight sharpness that made Charlotte's small shoulders stiffen. "I'm fine, Granny," Charlotte replied softly, her voice noticeably subdued. Carole's instincts flared immediately. She observed the familiar pattern of cautious compliance in her granddaughter's posture. a sudden retreat of the natural sparkle that made Charlotte who she was. Charlotte moved instinctively closer to Catherine, seeking comfort, while Carole's eyes never left her. By the time lunch was served in the castle's smaller dining room, sunlight pouring through the tall windows, the tension was palpable. The table was immaculate, adorned with fine china and crystal, exuding an air of refined celebration. Charlotte sat between her grandfather Charles and great-aunt Anne, both of whom had always been kind and encouraging. The initial conversation flowed easily, Charles animatedly sharing stories from his recent engagements, asking questions of the children with genuine interest. Charlotte eagerly recounted her recent projects. "And did you know, Grandpa, Windsor Castle has been home to 39 monarchs?" she asked proudly. Charles leaned forward, genuinely delighted. "Tell me more about your project, Charlotte," he encouraged warmly. But as Charlotte spoke, Carole noticed Camilla's smile tighten, the warmth in her expression fading. Then came the subtle yet devastating strike. "That's quite enough history lessons for now, don't you think? Perhaps the grown-ups should have a turn to speak," Camilla said, her tone smooth but final. Charlotte froze, her enthusiasm extinguished like a candle snuffed abruptly. Her hands folded neatly in her lap. She stared down at her barely touched plate, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Charles glanced between his wife and granddaughter, puzzled. Catherine and William exchanged a loaded look but remained silent. The silence stretched uncomfortably until Anne redirected the conversation toward George's football activities, a safe harbour amid the sudden tension. Carole had seen enough. Her instincts, sharpened over decades of raising her own children and navigating the complexities of her business, ignited into full alert. This was no simple misunderstanding, no generational difference in communication. This was deliberate, systematic, and entirely unacceptable. After lunch, the family moved to the garden terrace for coffee and tea. The October sun was bright and crisp, perfect for outdoor enjoyment. The children were given permission to explore the gardens under the watchful eye of their protection officers, and Charlotte slowly began to regain some of her natural joy. Yet Carole's vigilance never wavered. She noted the subtle interactions, the small cues, the invisible pressures shaping her granddaughter's behaviour. Carole and Catherine spoke quietly about upcoming family plans, the topics ranging from school schedules to holiday gatherings, yet Carole's attention was divided. Every instinct screamed that she must stay alert. She watched the children at play, the careful choreography of movements across the terrace. And then she saw it. Charlotte breaking from the group, stepping away from George and Louis, moving toward the terrace alone. Carole's pulse quickened, every sense sharpened, every nerve alert. Charlotte's steps were light, almost hesitant, yet deliberate. The little girl's awareness of her surroundings, her cautious scanning of the area, reflected the subtle imprint of the morning's tensions. Carole's protective instincts flared. This was a pivotal moment, one that would test her attentiveness, her experience, her resolve. She noticed the slight dip of Charlotte's shoulders, the careful way she avoided certain adults, the instinctive retreat into herself despite the outward brightness she tried to maintain. The oak room, the terrace, the very castle grounds, places that had once been familiar and safe, now seemed layered with hidden pressures, invisible expectations that demanded Charlotte's compliance. Carole's mind raced, considering every possible scenario. Could Charlotte be singled out, intentionally or not, by those she trusted? Could the subtle edge in Camilla's tone earlier have been more than incidental? Every fibre of her being demanded vigilance. She knew the day had shifted from celebration to silent scrutiny, from joy to subtle negotiation of safety and control. Charlotte approached the terrace, each step measured, small hands brushing against the balustrade as if seeking stability. Carole felt a tightening in her chest, the unmistakable surge of grandmotherly protection, knowing instinctively that the little girl needed guidance, reassurance, and the unwavering presence of someone who would not let harm, even emotional, touch her. At that moment, the delicate balance of the afternoon had transformed. What began as a celebration of intellect, diligence, and family pride had quietly morphed into a test of observation, courage, and guardianship. Carole understood fully now that she must remain alert, poised, and ready to act, not as a distant observer, but as a vigilant protector of her granddaughter's innocence and joy. the day was no longer just about accolades or polite conversation. It was about safeguarding Charlotte's spirit amidst subtle currents of influence and expectation that Carole had spent a lifetime learning to read. And as Charlotte neared the terrace alone, a blend of confidence and caution in her small frame, Carole's heart tightened with love, worry, and fierce determination. Every instinct she had cultivated, every lesson from decades of parenting and leadership converged into a singular, unshakable truth. Nothing, absolutely nothing, would stand in her way if her granddaughter needed protection. The late afternoon sun cast a golden glow across the Windsor Castle terrace as Charlotte skipped ahead, her small hands clasping a tiny bouquet of wildflowers she had discovered blooming late against the south wall. Her face was alight with the kind of pure, unfiltered joy only a child could possess, and she called out excitedly, her voice carrying across the terrace. "Look what I found! There are still roses blooming by the wall." Catherine's warm laughter met her words. "How lovely, darling! Why don't you show everyone?" she encouraged, her tone gentle and supportive, a grandmother's warmth mirrored in a mother's pride. Charlotte's face lit up even brighter, her small steps quickening as she made her way toward the gathering of adults, her bouquet carefully cradled, each flower a symbol of her curiosity and joy. But before Charlotte could reach the group, a voice cut sharply through the afternoon air, a voice that carried authority and an unmistakable edge. "Charlotte, stop right there!" Queen Camilla's words were like a sudden gust of cold wind, freezing the little girl mid-step. Charlotte looked down at her small shoes, the slight smudges of mud from her explorations, and then at the modest grass stain on her dress. She had been playing, laughing, discovering, doing all the things children were meant to do. Carole's heart clenched as she watched the scene unfold. Her granddaughter was being scolded, not for danger or carelessness, but for being alive, for embracing the small wonders of a garden, for daring to exist in a moment of carefree happiness. Camilla's critique was swift and cutting. "Look at the state of you. You're covered in dirt. Your dress is torn. What will people think?" Carole's eyes narrowed. She took in the scene fully. Charlotte's dress slightly grass-stained, her shoes muddied, yet her hair perfectly in place, her eyes still sparkling with excitement. This was not a state function. This was a private family gathering. Charlotte was not unkempt. She was a child. And yet the words hung in the air like a judgmental cloud, casting shadows over the sunlight and over the little girl's fleeting joy. "I'm sorry, Granny," Charlotte whispered, her excitement deflating instantly. She looked up at Carole, confusion and embarrassment flickering across her small features. Carole could see the hurt beginning to settle in, the early tremor of shame that no child should endure from a moment of innocent discovery. Camilla continued, her voice deliberate, every syllable calculated. "A proper young lady doesn't run about like a wild thing, getting filthy and tearing her clothes. Perhaps you should go inside and have your nanny clean you up before you embarrass us further." The words hit Carole with the force of a physical blow. Her stomach tightened and an almost primal rage stirred within her. This wasn't guidance. This wasn't teaching. This was deliberate belittlement, an attempt to crush a child's spirit for the crime of curiosity and joy. Charlotte's small hands let go of the flowers. They scattered across the stone terrace like tiny fragments of innocence, a visual metaphor that was painfully evident to anyone paying attention. That was the moment Carole Middleton decided she had reached the limit. Every maternal and grandmaternal instinct in her body screamed that this had gone too far. Her granddaughter, a vibrant, intelligent, kind-hearted little girl, was being systematically diminished in front of the family she loved and trusted. Carole rose from her chair, her movements measured, yet resolute, a quiet authority that had been honed over decades of leadership and business. She walked directly to Charlotte, kneeling despite the careful elegance of her designer outfit, and began to gather the scattered blooms. "These are beautiful, sweetheart," she said, her voice carrying across the terrace so that everyone could hear. "You have such an eye for lovely things, and you look absolutely perfect. Just like a child enjoying the garden as any little girl should." She gently brushed a few stray leaves from Charlotte's dress and, standing, placed a protective arm around her granddaughter's shoulders. Then, with calm authority, She turned to face Camilla directly. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Carole said, her voice controlled but firm. "Charlotte has done nothing wrong. She is behaving exactly as any happy, healthy child should behave at a family gathering." Camilla's eyebrows rose, a flicker of surprise passing over her carefully composed face. "I'm sorry, but I don't think you understand the standards," she began. "I understand perfectly," Carole interrupted, her tone sharp yet unshakable, something she had never dared to use with a member of the royal family before. "I understand that you have spent the better part of this afternoon criticizing and belittling my granddaughter for the crime of being an enthusiastic, intelligent child, and I am here to tell you that it stops. Right now." The terrace fell silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. Birds, usually singing in the crisp autumn air, were quiet. Catherine and William watched in stunned amazement, witnessing Carole Middleton, so careful for decades in observing protocol, standing up to the Queen Consort with the unyielding protectiveness of a lion defending her cub. Camilla's face hardened, the authority in her voice rising. "Carole, I think you are overreacting." "No," Carole said, her words slicing through the tension. "I am not overreacting. I am responding appropriately to watching someone systematically attempt to crush a child's spirit. Charlotte is 8 years old. She is bright, curious, kind, and well-behaved. She is my granddaughter, and I will not stand by and watch anyone make her feel small or ashamed for simply being herself." Charles rose from his chair, the diplomatic expression on his face betraying his unease. He approached slowly, clearly uncomfortable with the confrontation unfolding, but Carole was not finished. Her voice was steady, unwavering. "I have spent my entire life nurturing confidence in children, not tearing it down," she continued. "I have watched Charlotte flourish under the love and guidance of her parents, her grandparents, and her teachers. She is remarkable, and she deserves to be celebrated, not constantly corrected and criticized for daring to explore and express joy." Camilla's carefully applied makeup seemed to pale beneath the weight of the words. "I was merely trying to teach her proper behavior," she said. "Proper behavior is not shaming a child for her curiosity," Carole countered. "It is not instilling fear of making mistakes or being herself. That is emotional manipulation, and it has no place in any family, royal or otherwise." The aftermath was a silence so profound that it seemed to linger in the stones of Windsor Castle itself. Carole held her ground, arm around Charlotte, while Camilla searched for a response that might salvage her authority. Charles's gaze darted between the women, torn between his loyalty to his wife and the undeniable truth in Carole's words. Catherine and William remained seated, their body language protective, resolute, and silently communicating support for both their daughter and her grandmother. Charlotte, finally, broke the silence. She looked up at Carole with eyes that reflected gratitude, relief, and renewed courage. "Thank you, Grandmama," she whispered. Those simple words, fragile and sincere, seemed to shift the atmosphere for everyone present. Catherine rose quickly, moving to Charlotte's other side, forming a protective barrier around her. William followed, his expression leaving no doubt where his loyalties lay. "I think it might be best if we called it a day," Catherine said quietly, her voice calm but firm. Charles nodded slowly, trying to maintain diplomacy, struggling to reassert the usual order, but acknowledging that today, something extraordinary had occurred. Camilla looked around at the faces surrounding her, Charlotte's tear-streaked but grateful expression, Carole's unyielding protective stance, Catherine and William's united front, and Charles's evident discomfort. For perhaps the first time in years, she seemed genuinely at a loss for words. The drive back to the Middleton home was quiet, the kind of reflective silence that comes after a storm. Charlotte sat between her parents in the back seat, her small hands clutching the edge of her dress, her gaze occasionally flicking toward Carole, who drove with her mind still processing the confrontation. "Grandmama!" Charlotte's small voice broke the silence, hesitant but filled with the need for reassurance. "Was I really being bad today?" Carole pulled the car over carefully to the side, turning fully to meet her granddaughter's gaze. Her eyes softened, her hand reaching over to brush Charlotte's hair back from her face. "Charlotte, listen to me very carefully," she said, her voice firm yet warm. "You were not being bad. You were being exactly what you should be, a curious, enthusiastic, intelligent little girl. Don't ever let anyone make you feel ashamed of those wonderful qualities. You are perfect just as you are, and never forget that. Charlotte smiled faintly, the tension in her small frame easing as she absorbed the words. And a quiet understanding passed between grandmother and granddaughter, a bond reinforced, a lesson learned, and a promise silently made to protect her innocence and joy at all costs. Catherine reached over and gently took her daughter's hand, offering a quiet reassurance that spoke volumes. "Grandmama is absolutely right. You are perfect today, just as you always are," she said, her voice warm and steady, carrying the kind of calm certainty only a parent could provide. Charlotte's small fingers curled around her mother's, drawing strength from the simple gesture, and for a brief moment, all the anxiety and tension of the afternoon seemed to lift, replaced with a sense of safety and belonging. "But Granny Camilla said," Charlotte whispered, almost hesitantly, as though her young mind was still trying to reconcile the conflicting messages she had received. "Granny Camilla was wrong," William said firmly, stepping closer to his daughter. "And that's not something we say lightly about any adult, but sometimes grown-ups make mistakes too. What she said to you today was a mistake, and it won't happen again." His voice, calm yet resolute, carried an authority that was comforting rather than intimidating, reinforcing to Charlotte that she was understood, that her feelings were valid, and that the adults she loved and trusted would always stand by her. Charlotte nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of their words. Children, even at 8 years old, are remarkably perceptive. They can sense tension, recognize insincerity, and pick up on subtle cues from adults that many never notice. That she had understood even in her youth that something had been wrong about the day's interactions was a testament to her innate intelligence and emotional awareness. The validation she received from her mother, father, and grandmother in that moment was transformative, reminding her that she was safe, valued, and loved. The immediate consequences of that confrontation were far-reaching. Catherine and William had already agreed that Charlotte would no longer attend any private gatherings with Camilla without the presence of at least one parent. They were committed to safeguarding her from further emotional harm and had resolved that if any similar situations arose in the future, they would address them immediately rather than hoping the problem would resolve itself. This proactive approach reflected their deep understanding that a child's emotional well-being must always come before decorum, tradition, or social convention. Charles, for his part, reached out to Carole the following day. The conversation, while awkward, was necessary. The future king acknowledged that the situation had been mishandled and offered assurances that steps would be taken to prevent anything similar from happening again. "Carole, I want you to know that I deeply value your family's place in our lives," he said earnestly. "Charlotte is precious to all of us, and she should never be made to feel otherwise." Camilla, however, never made contact. Whether it was pride, embarrassment, or simply an unwillingness to confront the consequences of her behavior, Carole never learned. Yet in that absence lay a powerful, unspoken truth. Actions and inactions alike reveal intentions and attitudes. Over the weeks and months that followed, subtle yet important changes became apparent in how family gatherings were structured and supervised. Charlotte was never left alone with Camilla again, and when the two were in the same room, other family members remained attentive and engaged, ensuring that the young princess was always surrounded by supportive eyes and protective presence. The transformation in Charlotte herself was remarkable. Prior to that day, she had exhibited subtle signs of caution, a slight hesitancy at formal gatherings, careful with her words, and measured in her interactions. But as the weeks passed, those restraints gradually lifted. She once again became the bright, curious, and joyful child she had always been. The confidence that had been dimmed by subtle criticism returned in full, her laughter and enthusiasm resuming their natural place in every interaction, whether at home, at school, or in family gatherings. Carole's bond with Charlotte deepened as well. The little girl understood even at her young age that her grandmother had defended her, that she had stood up when she herself could not. That knowledge created a profound sense of trust and security. Charlotte learned a critical lesson that day. There are people in her life who will fight for her, protect her, and ensure that her natural curiosity, joy, and intelligence are never diminished by the opinions or criticisms of others. Carole Middleton's actions also resonated beyond the family. In certain social and business circles, stories circulated about her courage and principled stand. While details remained private, the essence was clear. She had confronted a figure of significant authority in defense of a child, and she did so without hesitation or fear. Far from harming her reputation, her courage enhanced it. People admired her ability to act decisively and morally, even when the stakes were high, recognizing the broader lesson her actions conveyed. Protecting children is a responsibility that transcends protocol, hierarchy, and social convention. This incident illuminated an essential truth. Children, especially those in high-profile families, navigate pressures that most cannot imagine. While Charlotte enjoyed privileges that many could only dream of, she also faced expectations and scrutiny that could be overwhelming. The adults in her life needed to prioritize her emotional well-being above all else, creating an environment in which she could thrive and remain confident in her own worth. In the years that followed, Charlotte continued to flourish. She pursued her interests, excelled academically, and maintained close, loving relationships with the adults who had protected her. The events of that October afternoon became a quietly pivotal moment in her life, a reminder of her value, her rights, and the people who would always stand by her. Carole Middleton, for her part, never publicly discussed the incident, and she likely never would. Her principles, courage, and unwavering commitment to her granddaughter's well-being spoke far more powerfully than any words could. For her, the role of grandmother is sacred, and protecting her grandchildren's happiness and self-worth will always outweigh social expectations, protocol, or personal discomfort. The relationship between Camilla and the Middleton family remains cordial, but is more distant than it once was. Public appearances continue to show unity and respect, yet the warmth that once flowed freely has been replaced by caution and careful management of interactions. Bridges that were once burned can be rebuilt, but they can never fully regain the intimacy and trust they once held. Most importantly, the entire family learned lessons that extend beyond titles and protocol. They learned about boundaries, the importance of speaking up, and the necessity of advocating for those who cannot yet advocate for themselves. Children are always watching and learning from the adults around them. That day, Charlotte learned she had people in her life who would fight for her, no matter what. Stories like this remind us all of the power of standing up for what is right, even when it is uncomfortable or difficult. The courage to protect, nurture, and defend those who are vulnerable is a lesson worth reflecting on in every family, in every community. If this story moved you, take a moment to think about the children in your own life, the ones who rely on you for guidance, support, and protection. Recognize the responsibility we all share to protect their joy, curiosity, and confidence. And if you found this story inspiring, or if it made you reflect on your own role in standing up for what's right, we would love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below, join the conversation, and subscribe to follow more stories that celebrate courage, love, and the enduring importance of standing up for those who need it most. Every act of protection, every moment of advocacy, and every demonstration of love leaves a lasting impact. Don't miss out on these powerful, real-life lessons. Stay connected and be inspired.